Leave now, Father. You're shaming me. My name is John Smith, and my son just spoke those words to me at his $340,000 wedding. I'm standing outside Connecticut's finest venue in my 15-year-old suit, surrounded by luxury cars and tycoons. Alex is marrying into old wealth, and apparently a Mexican builder doesn't suit their picture. He's been claiming I deserted the family, that I'm gone to him. What he doesn't realize, I own this site. What he's about to discover. You don't disgrace the man who laid your base. In the next 20 minutes, my son's ideal wedding is going to turn into a costly lesson about honor. 250 top guests are about to see what happens when you bite the hand that funded your Columbia degree. If you're viewing this, like and comment where you're from. You won't want to miss how this ends. This is the tale of how I reminded my son that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. Let me show you the image of just how misplaced I appeared that day. I'd driven my 2008 Ford F-150 to Harborview Estate. $12,000 in rust patches and cement mixer in the bed. The valet stared at me like I'd taken a wrong exit behind me, a row of cars that cost more than most folks' homes. A Bentley Continental GT worth $230,000, a Maserati Quattroporte at $180,000. My truck seemed like a laborer at a racehorse event. I wore the sole suit I had, navy blue from J. Penney, purchased 15 years ago for $89 when Alex finished high school. The cuffs were frayed, the shoulders a bit snug under my nails. No matter how much I cleaned, hints of cement dust lingered. The other men sported custom Italian tuxedos and $100 trims. The first hint I wasn't wanted came from Mrs. Harrison, Alex's future mother-in-law. She scanned me up and down like she was checking a safety breach. "Pardon me," she said. "Are you with the food team?" "No, ma'am. I'm Alex's father." Her face cycled through a set of looks that would have been amusing if they weren't so rude. Shock, bafflement, then something like she'd smelled sour dairy. "Oh," she said, and left without another syllable. The second hint came from the venue crew themselves. A young lady with a clipboard and a headset neared me. "Sir, the worker entrance is around back. Chef Rodriguez expects his crew by 2 o'clock. I'm not cooking," I said. "I'm here for the Smith-Harrison wedding." She checked her list, checked me, checked her list again. "Sorry, I don't see a Miguel Smith on the guest list. John Smith, father of the groom." The puzzlement on her face revealed everything I needed. Alex had told these people I wouldn't show. Maybe he told them I didn't exist at all, but here's what none of them knew. Not Mrs. Harrison with her passed-down cash, not the crew with their clipboards, not even my own son. Those 15 years I'd spent holding 3 jobs after my wife passed, I wasn't just putting meals on the table. I was creating something. While Alex was at Columbia University, 4 years that cost me $280,000 in fees, housing, and meals, I was growing Smith & Partners Construction. Every month, $4,200 left my business account for that school. $4,200 for 4 years running. Alex graduated summa cum laude. He landed a role at an investment bank in Manhattan. Started earning more in a year than I earned in 3, and somewhere in that time, he decided that John Smith, the man who labored 16-hour days to fund his degree, was a disgrace. 8 months ago, when he got engaged to Emily Harrison III, he began altering his tale. Suddenly, I wasn't the father who gave everything for his future. I was the father who ditched the family. He told the Harrisons I was an unstable drunk who vanished after his mother died. He said he raised himself on grants and loans, but I kept the receipts, every single one. $4,200 a month for 48 months running. Direct transfers to Columbia University. No grants, no loans. Just a cement contractor who cherished his son more than his own ease. Standing there in my aged suit, watching these folks look past me like I was unseen, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not rage, not pain, something chillier, something that had grown for 8 months of ignored calls and skipped Sunday meals. I felt the need to show everyone exactly who they were facing. You need to grasp what led to that moment outside Harborview Estate. This wasn't just about a wedding invite. This was about 8 months of seeing my son wipe me from his life. It began in March when Alex phoned to share his engagement. "Dad, I'm getting married," he said. "Her name is Emily Harrison III. I was thrilled for him, proud. This was my little boy, the one I'd read stories to every night after his mother passed, the one I'd helped with math homework at the kitchen table while cement dust covered everything we had." "That's great, Alex," I said. "When do I get to meet her?" There was a pause, a long one. "Dad, the thing is, Emily's family is very proper, very rooted. They might not get our roots. Our roots, like being Mexican-American, was something to hide, like manual work was a flaw." "What are you saying, Alex?" "I'm saying maybe we should ease in. Maybe you don't need to meet them right away." That should have been my first alert, but I loved my son. I trusted him. I thought he was just anxious about merging two different worlds. Over the next months, the gap widened. Sunday dinners became, "I'm too busy." Phone calls became texts. Texts became nothing. In June, he needed cash. "Emergency," he said. "Car died, and I'm between checks." $12,000 he asked for. I sent $15,000 because that's what fathers do. In July, I learned through Facebook he was holding an engagement party, 200 guests. I wasn't invited. When I phoned him about it, he had reasons ready. "Dad, it was mostly Emily's family and friends. You wouldn't have known anyone I know you." I said it's complex. That word complex, like 28 years of being his father, was some kind of puzzle he couldn't crack. In August, I ran into Miss Rodriguez from our old block. Her daughter attended high school with Alex. "Congratulations on Alex's engagement," she said. Though I must say I was shocked to hear about his father. What about his father? Well, that he died when he was young. Such a loss. He's so strong raising himself like that. I stood there in the grocery lot holding a bag of groceries, feeling like I'd been hit in the gut. My son was telling folks I was dead. Not gone, not distant, dead. That night, I phoned him. No answer. I texted him. Nothing. I drove to his Manhattan apartment. The doorman said he wasn't seeing visitors for 3 weeks. I tried to contact him. Finally, he rang back. "Dad, I can explain. You told people I was dead, Alex. I didn't. It's simpler than explaining the full story." The full story. 28 years of caring for him was a story. What story? I raised you, I paid for everything. I never missed a birthday, never missed a game, never missed anything that counted to you. Dad, you don't get what it's like for me now. Emily's family, they have standards. 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 Like truth wasn't one of them. "So, what about the wedding?" I asked. "Am I dead for that too?" Another long pause. "The wedding will be very formal, very classic. Maybe it would be better if what if you didn't come?" Those words struck me like a hammer. My own son barring me from his wedding. "Alex, I walked you down the aisle at your quince. I taught you to drive. I stayed up all night when you had flu, and you don't want me at your wedding. Dad, please don't make this tougher than it has to be." But here's what Alex didn't grasp. Here's what he'd forgotten in his hurry to join high society and erase his past. If I didn't appear at that wedding, I wouldn't just be losing a son, I'd be losing myself. 28 years of being a father doesn't just vanish because it's awkward for someone's social rise. More than that, I'd be betraying the memory of his mother. Maria Smith, who died of cancer when Alex was 15, who made me vow with her final breath that I'd never stop battling for our son, care for our boy, she murmured in that hospital room. Don't let the world make him forget who he is. Standing outside Harborview Estate that day, watching my son pick strangers over family, I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for my bond with Alex. I was fighting for the truth, and sometimes the truth needs witnesses. When Alex saw me heading toward the entrance, his face went pale. He hurried over, his $18,000 suit rustling against the stone steps. Behind him, Emily Harrison III followed, looking like he'd rather be elsewhere. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I'm here for your wedding." "We discussed this." "No, you discussed. I listened. Today, I'm here. Emily stepped forward. 28 years old. Trust fund kid. Probably never worked a day in his life. He had that soft look rich kids get when they've never met real fallout, sir, he said. Perhaps there's been a mix-up. No mix-up, I said. I'm the father of the groom. Alex's eyes darted around, checking who was watching. About 50 guests had gathered near the entrance, and more were arriving every minute. Senators, fund managers, people whose names appear on hospital wings and museum signs. Dad, please, he whispered. Can we talk alone? Why, ashamed of something? It's not that easy. Seems easy to me. I'm your father. This is your wedding. I'm here. Harrison appeared behind Alex like a dark cloud. Eleanor Harrison, 62 years old, inherited riches going back 4 generations. She looked at me the way you'd look at a smudge on costly cloth, Mr. Smith, she said. I think there's been some mistake. No mistake. You see, the venue has very tight security rules, very exclusive. I'm afraid your name isn't on the approved list. That's when Alex delivered the strike that changed everything. Dad, you need to go. You're shaming me. The words hung in the air like fog around us. Talk stopped. People turned to stare. I could feel their eyes, their opinions, their interest. Shaming you? Look around, Dad. Look at where we are. Look at these people. I looked. Bentleys and Maseratis lined the circular drive, men in tuxedos that cost more than my monthly loan. Women draped with jewels that could fund a small nation. I see them. These are key people, influential people. They have standards. Standards? Yes, standards. And standing here in that old suit, smelling like cement dust, speaking with that accent. This accent, Dad, please just leave. This isn't your world. Mrs. Harrison nodded approvingly. Perhaps it would be best for all if you honored Alex's wishes. Emily shifted uneasily. Sir, I'm sure you understand. This is a vital day for our families. Our families. Like I wasn't family anymore. That's when I felt it. That cold, steady feeling I get when someone crosses a line they can't uncross. The same feeling I had when a building checker tried to extort me for permits 15 years ago. The same feeling I had when a rival tried to steal my largest job. Alex, I said, my voice low and firm. Let me ask you something. Who paid for Columbia? Dad, don't 4 years, $280,000. Who paid? His face reddened. We're not doing this here. You said you raised yourself on grants. That's what you told them, right? Mrs. Harrison's eyes narrowed. Alex, what is he talking about? He's overstating, Alex said fast. There were some gifts, but bank records don't overstate, I said. $4,200 a month, 48 months running. No grants, no loans, just a builder who loved his son. The crowd around us was growing. Word was spreading through the venue. People were pulling out phones. Emily looked lost. Alex, you told us your father ditched the family. He did, basically. I held 3 jobs, I said. While you were cramming for tests, I was pouring cement at midnight. While you were at frat parties, I was patching bases on weekends. Every dollar you spent at that school came from these hands. I held up my hands, rough, marked, stained with years of real labor. Mrs. Harrison's voice was ice. Mr. Smith, you're making a scene. Am I? Yes, and I'm going to have to ask security to remove you from the property. That's when I smiled. Not a warm smile, not a kind smile. The kind of smile that comes when someone has just made a very costly error. Mrs. Harrison, I said, before you summon security, let me ask you a question. Do you know who owns this venue? Of course, the Harborview Estate Company. And do you know who holds the majority stake in that company? Her assurance wavered for just a second. The Patterson family, obviously. 40%, I said. Smith & Partners Construction owns 40% of this property. Has since 2019. The silence was total. You could hear the breeze in the trees, the far sound of cars on the road, the hushed talk of 250 people trying to absorb what they'd just heard. Alex stared at me like I'd just spoken another tongue. That's impossible, he whispered. Many things seem impossible, I said. Until you view the documents. The look on Alex's face told me he was starting to see that his father wasn't quite the basic builder he'd painted to his new family. Dad, what are you saying? Before I could reply, a known voice called out from behind the crowd. Mr. Smith, sir, I didn't know you were coming today. I turned to see Carlos Mendez walking toward us. 35 years old, crisp black suit, manager's tag on his lapel. 15 years ago, Carlos was my trainee, barely spoke English, mixed cement for $8 an hour. Today he's the vice president of operations for Harborview Estate. Carlos, I said, good to see you. He approached with a wide smile, then saw the strain in the crowd. His smile faded as he took in the scene: Alex in his wedding suit, Mrs. Harrison's icy glare, Emily looking more uneasy. Is everything fine here? Carlos asked. Almost. Mrs. Harrison stepped forward. There seems to be some mix-up about the guest list. This man claims to be related to the groom, but related? Carlos looked truly puzzled. Ma'am, this is John Smith. He's not just related to anyone here. I caught Carlos's eye and gave him a small shake of the head. Not yet. Not like this. He's what? Mrs. Harrison demanded. Carlos paused, reading my look. He's Alex's father. Of course he should be here. That's not the problem, Emily said. The problem is whether this is the proper place for proper. Carlos's voice carried a tone I knew, the same tone he used when someone doubted his control at the venue. Sir, with respect, I think you might want to rethink that remark. Alex looked between Carlos and me, a frown on his brow. Dad, how do you know the venue manager? Carlos and I go way back, I said simply. Way back? How? I could see his brain working, trying to fit facts that didn't match his story. His father was supposed to be a plain builder, uneducated, powerless, someone who could be ignored and forgotten. But here was the venue manager showing me clear respect. Not the polite respect you give any guest, but the kind of respect saved for people who count. Mr. Smith taught me all I know about building, Carlos said carefully. About business, about treating folks right. Mrs. Harrison was growing impatient. This is all very moving, but we have a wedding to handle. Security should deal with this matter. Security? Carlos's brows rose. Ma'am, I am security. I'm also operations lead and everything else that runs this place, and I can tell you now, Mr. Smith is welcome here whenever he wishes to be. That's not your call to make, Mrs. Harrison snapped. Carlos looked at her for a long beat. Then he looked at me. I could see the query in his eyes. How much should I reveal? I pulled out my phone and opened a contact. Jennifer Wilson, my lawyer. She focused on contract law. Had been on retainer for my firm for 8 years. Harvard law grad. Sharp as a knife and fully loyal. Carlos, I said, is the Patterson room free? Of course, sir. Always. Good. I may need somewhere private to call. Alex caught the swap. Dad, what's going on? Why do you know so much about this place? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. The little boy who used to ride on my shoulders at job sites, who helped me measure wood when he was 10 years old, who swore he'd never be ashamed of his roots. Alex, I said, there's a lot about your father you've forgotten. A lot about your father you never cared to learn. Like what? Like who built this place? Mrs. Harrison laughed. It was not a nice sound. Mr. Smith. This estate was planned by Harrison and Associates, one of New England's top architect firms. Planned, yes, but who laid the base? Who poured the cement? Who oversaw the build from start to finish? Carlos cleared his throat. That would be Smith and Partners Construction, ma'am, best in the trade. The gears were turning now. I could see it in Alex's eyes, in Emily's uneasy moves, in Mrs. Harrison's sudden doubt. Dad, Alex said slowly, are you saying you worked on this building? I'm saying a lot of things, son. Question is whether you're ready to hear. That's when Mrs. Harrison chose to push things to a level I doubt she was ready for. Enough of this act, she said, her voice echoing across the entrance area. Security. I need security here now. The effect was instant. Talk halted throughout the crowd. Phones came out. People started filming. This wasn't just family tension anymore, this was entertainment for Connecticut's elite. Alex's face went red. "Mother Harrison, please." "Don't." "Mother Harrison, me, dear. This man is ruining your wedding day, Emily's wedding day. Our family's name is at risk." Two security guards emerged from inside the venue. Young men, likely in their 20s, wearing black suits with earpieces, they approached us with the careful skill that showed they'd handled their share of wealthy issues. "Ma'am," the taller one said to Mrs. Harrison, "what seems to be the problem?" "This man," she pointed at me like I was a lost pet, "is trespassing. He's not on the guest list. He's causing a ruckus, and I want him off the property now." The security guard looked at me, then at Alex, then at Carlos. "Sir, I'm going FEC to have to ask you to come with us." And that's when Alex spoke the words that I'll recall for life. "Yes," he said, his voice loud and clear for all to hear. "Remove him. He doesn't belong here. He never belonged here. I don't want him at my wedding, and I don't want him in my life." The crowd gasped, truly gasped, even for folks used to family battles and social fights. This was harsh. "Alex," Emily said quietly, "maybe we should." "No, Emily. This must be said. This man ditched our family. He's a drunk. He's unstable. And he spent my whole adult life trying to claim credit for successes that have nothing to do with him. Every word was false. Every single word. And he was saying it in front of 250 witnesses. He claims he paid for my degree. But the truth is, I won grants. I held multiple jobs. I put myself through Columbia while he was off drinking what little cash he made pouring cement." The security guards looked uneasy. This wasn't what they'd signed for. Mrs. Harrison, however, looked pleased. "You see, the boy knows his own father. Remove him." But the guards paused, looking at Carlos. He was their boss, after all. "Carlos," I said quietly, "do you have your master keys?" "Yes, sir." "Good. We're going to need them." Alex caught the swap, "Dad. Stop this. Just go. Just return to your small world and leave me be." "My small world?" "Yes. Your trucks and your cement and your she waved at my clothes. Your sad tries to be something you're not." That's when the crowd truly started listening. Phones were certainly filming now. "This was going to hit social media soon, Alex," I said, my voice calm as glass. "Let me ask you something. What do you think this wedding cost?" "That's none of your concern." $340,000, I said. "Venue, setup, food, flowers, music, photos. $340,000. Mrs. Harrison's eyes narrowed. "How could you know that?" "Because I've seen the bills." "That's impossible. Those are private." "The venue fee alone is $87,500, I went on. "Paid ahead, or supposed to be paid ahead?" Emily looked lost. "Mother, what is he talking about?" "He's spouting nonsense," Mrs. Harrison said, but I could see doubt in her voice. "Am I, Mrs. Harrison?" "Because I have some papers in my truck that say otherwise." The first security guard moved forward. "Sir, I really need you to come with me now." But before he could reach me, his radio sparked. "All units, this is base. Stand down on the entrance issue. Stand down now." The guard looked puzzled. "Base, repeat, stand down. Do not hold the person in question." "Repeat, do not hold." Carlos pulled out his own radio. "Base, this is Carlos. What's the status?" "Carlos, we just got a call from legal. Apparently, there's some ownership matter that needs resolving before any move is taken." Mrs. Harrison's face went white. "Ownership matter." I smiled, the same cold smile from before. "Would you like to see the papers now, Mrs. Harrison? Or would you rather keep claiming trespass?" Alex grabbed my arm. "Dad, what are you doing? What I should have done 8 months ago teaching you about results. Results for what? For lying, for taking, for forgetting who raised you. I didn't take anything, didn't you?" I pulled out my phone and opened my texts. 6 months ago. "Dad, emergency. Car died. Need $12,000 for fixes." "Remember that?" His face flushed. "That was $15,000. I sent you $15,000 because that's what fathers do for sons." Even sons who are ashamed of them. I held up the phone so he could see the transfer proof paid from Smith and Partners Construction to Alex Smith. March 15, 2024. $15,000. Emily stared at his fiancé. Alex, you told me your car was a bonus from your firm. I mean it, it's complex. No, I said it's not complex at all. It's simple. Your son has been lying to you about everything, about me, about his past, about where his cash comes from. Mrs. Harrison was looking around wildly, trying to regain hold of the situation. This is absurd, Carlos. I demand that you, ma'am, Carlos said politely. I think it would be best if we move this talk inside, away from the crowd. Because the crowd was truly a crowd now. 250 people, all watching, all filming, all seeing the dramatic fall of Alex Smith Harrison's carefully built lie. No, Alex said desperately. We're not going anywhere. This is my wedding day and I want this man gone. That's when I decided it was time to show everyone exactly who they were facing. Carlos, I said, call Jennifer Wilson. Tell her to bring the file. Which file, sir? All of them. 10 minutes later, a black BMW pulled to the valet area. Jennifer Wilson stepped out. 42 years old, Harvard law degree, $500 shoes, and a briefcase that likely costs more than most monthly wages. She walked toward our group with the confidence that comes from never losing a case. Mr. Smith, she said, offering her hand. I came as soon as Carlos called. The effect on the crowd was instant. Here was a woman who clearly fit in their world. Costly clothes, perfect manners, clear education, and she was treating me with the respect you show to key clients. Mrs. Harrison stepped forward. Excuse me, who are you? Jennifer Wilson, senior partner at Wilson Davidson Associates. I manage Mr. Smith's legal matters. Legal matters? Emily asked. What kind of legal matters does a builder need? Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Builder. I nodded toward Alex. My son has been telling people I'm just a plain contractor, nothing more. Ah, Jennifer said, grasping right away. Would you like me to clear the situation? I think that would help. Jennifer opened her briefcase and drew out a folder, official papers, court stamps, property titles, the kind of docs that make lawyers wealthy and make issues vanish. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, addressing the crowd like she was before a jury, I'd like to correct some errors about my client Michael Smith. Alex looked panicked. This is unnecessary. Mr. Smith is the founder and main owner of Smith and Partners Construction, a firm that has finished over $200 million in projects across New England over the past 20 years. $200 million. I watched that figure sink into the crowd, into Mrs. Harrison's scheming mind, into Emily's puzzled look, into Alex's horrified grasp. More specifically, Jennifer went on, Smith and Partners was the lead contractor for the build of Harborview Estate, finished in 2019 at a cost of $15 million. She drew out a paper and held it up. This is the property title filed with Fairfield County in November 2019. Smith and Partners Construction holds a 40% ownership stake in this site. What do you think this wedding cost? That's none of your concern. $340,000, I said. Venue, setup, food, flowers, music, photos. $340,000. Mrs. Harrison's eyes narrowed. How could you know that? Because I've seen the bills. That's impossible. Those are private. The venue fee alone is $87,500, I went on. Paid ahead or supposed to be paid ahead? Emily looked lost. Mother, what is he talking about? He's spouting nonsense, Mrs. Harrison said, but I could see doubt in her voice. Am I, Mrs. Harrison? Because I have some papers in my truck that say otherwise, the first security guard moved forward. Sir, I really need you to come with me now. But before he could reach me, his radio sparked. All units, this is base, stand down on the entrance issue. Stand down now. The guard looked puzzled. Base, repeat, stand down. Do not hold the person in question. Repeat, do not hold. Carlos pulled out his own radio. Base, this is Carlos. What's the status? Carlos, we just got a call from legal. Apparently, there's some ownership matter that needs resolving before any move is taken. Mrs. Harrison's face went white. Ownership matter. I smiled, the same cold smile from before. Would you like to see the papers now, Mrs. Harrison? Or would you rather keep claiming trespass? Alex grabbed my arm. Dad, what are you doing? What I should have done 8 months ago teaching you about results. Results for what? For lying, for taking, for forgetting who raised you. I didn't take anything, didn't you? I pulled out my phone and opened my texts. 6 months ago. Dad, emergency. Car died. Need $12,000 for fixes. Remember that? His face flushed. That was $15,000. I sent you $15,000 because that's what fathers do for sons. Even sons who are ashamed of them. I held up the phone so he could see the transfer proof paid from Smith and Partners Construction to Alex Smith. March 15, 2024. $15,000. Emily stared at his fiancé. Alex, you told me your car was a bonus from your firm. It was, I mean it, it's complex. No, I said it's not complex at all. It's simple. Your son has been lying to you about everything, about me, about his past, about where his cash comes from. Mrs. Harrison was looking around wildly, trying to regain hold of the situation. This is absurd, Carlos. I demand that you, ma'am, Carlos said politely. I think it would be best if we move this talk inside, away from the crowd. Because the crowd was truly a crowd now. 250 people, all watching, all filming, all seeing the dramatic fall of Alex Smith Harrison's carefully built lie. No, Alex said desperately. We're not going anywhere. This is my wedding day and I want this man gone. That's when I decided it was time to show everyone exactly who they were facing. Carlos, I said, call Jennifer Wilson. Tell her to bring the file. Which file, sir? All of them. 10 minutes later, a black BMW pulled to the valet area. Jennifer Wilson stepped out. 42 years old, Harvard law degree, $500 shoes, and a briefcase that likely costs more than most monthly wages. She walked toward our group with the confidence that comes from never losing a case. Mr. Smith, she said, offering her hand. I came as soon as Carlos called. The effect on the crowd was instant. Here was a woman who clearly fit in their world. Costly clothes, perfect manners, clear education, and she was treating me with the respect you show to key clients. Mrs. Harrison stepped forward. Excuse me, who are you? Jennifer Wilson, senior partner at Wilson Davidson Associates. I manage Mr. Smith's legal matters. Legal matters? Emily asked. What kind of legal matters does a builder need? Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Builder. I nodded toward Alex. My son has been telling people I'm just a plain contractor, nothing more. Ah, Jennifer said, grasping right away. Would you like me to clear the situation? I think that would help. Jennifer opened her briefcase and drew out a folder, official papers, court stamps, property titles, the kind of docs that make lawyers wealthy and make issues vanish. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, addressing the crowd like she was before a jury, I'd like to correct some errors about my client Michael Smith. Alex looked panicked. This is unnecessary. Mr. Smith is the founder and main owner of Smith and Partners Construction, a firm that has finished over $200 million in projects across New England over the past 20 years. $200 million. I watched that figure sink into the crowd, into Mrs. Harrison's scheming mind, into Emily's puzzled look, into Alex's horrified grasp. More specifically, Jennifer went on, Smith and Partners was the lead contractor for the build of Harborview Estate, finished in 2019 at a cost of $15 million. She drew out a paper and held it up. This is the property title filed with Fairfield County in November 2019. Smith and Partners Construction holds a 40% ownership stake in this site. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice echoing across the silent estate grounds, I want to thank you for seeing this moment, because what happens next is going to be very simple, very legal, and very final. Jennifer opened her briefcase again and drew out a thick paper. Mrs. Harrison, she said, This is a formal notice of contract breach. As of this moment, Smith & Partners Construction is using its right to end the venue rental deal due to non-payment. Mrs. Harrison's face went white. You can't do that. The wedding is in 3 hours. Actually, we can, I said. Carlos? Carlos stepped forward, pulling a master key from his pocket. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but without payment, I have to lock the venue. All guests must leave the property within 30 minutes. The effect was instant panic spread through the crowd. $340,000 worth of wedding, food, flowers, music, photos about to be shut down. Wait, Emily said desperately. Wait, please. We can pay. We can wire the money now. Can you? Jennifer asked. Because according to our records, your family's check bounced due to lack of funds. Do you have $87,500 available? Right now, Emily pulled out his phone, frantically checking his bank app. His face told the story before his words. There's been a cash flow issue with the family accounts, but we can fix it by Monday. Monday won't help you today, I said. That's when Alex stepped forward, his wedding suit rustling in the sudden chill Connecticut wind. Dad, please don't do this. Don't do what? Don't wreck my wedding. Don't shame me like this. I looked at my son, really looked at him. 28 years old, handsome, educated, successful, and completely blind to the irony of what he just said. Shame you? Yes. In front of all these people? The way you shamed me 20 minutes ago when you told them I ditched our family? His face fell. That's different. How is it different? Because what, Alex? Because I'm just a builder and they're important people. Because my shame doesn't count, but yours does. The crowd was totally silent. This wasn't fun anymore. This was a judgment. I have a deal, I said loud enough for all to hear. A simple business deal. Mrs. Harrison looked hopeful. What kind of deal? An apology. A public apology from Alex to me in front of everyone here. That's it, Emily asked. That's not it. That's the start. Alex apologizes for lying about his family. He tells everyone the truth about who paid for his degree, who built his trust fund, who sent him $15,000 6 months ago when he needed help. Alex looked around the crowd, desperately. Dad, please. And then I went on. He introduces me properly, not as the shamed builder who doesn't belong here, as his father, the man who raised him, the man who gave everything so he could have the chances he's had. And if he does this, Mrs. Harrison asked, then the wedding goes on. The bill gets paid from Alex's trust fund, money that came from my firm anyway. Everyone goes home happy. And if he doesn't? Judge Davis asked quietly. I looked at Carlos. He nodded and pulled out his radio. Then the venue closes in 30 minutes. The food goes home. The music packs up and 250 people get to tell their friends why the Harrison-Smith wedding was canceled due to the groom's family dishonoring a builder. The silence stretched. I could hear birds in the trees, traffic on the far road, the quiet talk of people trying to process what they saw. Alex looked at his fiancée. Emily's look was hard to read. Shame, confusion, and maybe something like respect for the man he'd misjudged. He looked at Mrs. Harrison, who was weighing the social cost of a canceled wedding versus the cost of admitting she'd been wrong about everything. He looked at the crowd, many of whom were already posting to social media about the drama at Connecticut's top venue. Finally, he looked at me. Dad, he said quietly, if I do this, if I apologize, can we return to how things were? No, I said, we can't go back. Too much has been said, too many lies have been told. But we can go forward with truth, with respect, with acknowledgement of what really happened here. He was tearing up again. Real tears this time, not the fake kind. I'm scared, he whispered. Of what? Of what they'll think of me. I stepped closer to him, close enough that only he could hear what I said next. Son, these people don't set your worth. Your mother and I raised you to be better than their approval. But somewhere you forgot that. You forgot that respect comes from inside, not from outside." He nodded, wiping his eyes. Then he turned to face the crowd. "My name is Alex Smith Harrison," he said, his voice shaky but clear, "and I owe my father an apology." The crowd leaned in. "20 minutes ago, I told you that my father ditched our family, that he was unstable, drunk, and claimed credit for successes that weren't his. All of that was false." Mrs. Harrison shifted uneasily. "The truth is that my father, John Smith, held 3 jobs to put me through Columbia University. He paid $200,000 from his own pocket. He set up a trust fund for me with $500,000 from his business. 6 months ago, when I needed help, he sent me $15,000 without question." His voice grew firmer. "The truth is that my father owns 40% of this venue. He built this place. His firm, Smith & Partners Construction, has finished over $200 million in projects across New England." He paused, looking straight at me. "And the truth is that I was ashamed of him. Not because he did anything wrong, but because I was weak, because I wanted to fit with people who judge worth by accounts and family names instead of heart and effort." He took a deep breath. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying about you. I'm sorry for trying to erase you from my life. I'm sorry for picking their approval over your love." The crowd was totally silent, and I want everyone here to know that I'm proud to be your son, proud to be the son of a man who built something from nothing, who never forgot his roots, and who taught me that respect isn't about your wealth, it's about your character. I felt something I hadn't felt in 8 months, not triumph, not win, peace. "Apology accepted," I said. Then I turned to Carlos. "The wedding goes as planned. Bill the venue fee to Alex's trust fund." And just like that, it was done. Within 30 minutes, the story was everywhere. I watched it happen live. Phones that had filmed the clash uploaded clips to Instagram, X, TikTok. By the time the ceremony started an hour later, Smith wedding was trending in Connecticut. The story was clear. Spoiled rich boy tries to erase his working father from his life, gets schooled when he learns he owns the venue. The internet loves a status flip story, and this one had everything. Family clash, class battle, money tricks, and a satisfying comeuppance. Mrs. Harrison spent the ceremony looking like she'd eaten something sour. The Harrison family's social rank took a blow they weren't going to shake quickly. Word spreads fast in elite circles, and the tale of how they couldn't pay for their own son-in-law's wedding was going to follow them for years, but the real results were quicker and more personal. Emily Harrison III spent the reception looking at his new husband like he'd never seen him before. During their first dance, I watched him lean in close and say something that made Alex's face pale. I couldn't hear the words, but I could guess the topic: trust, truth, the base of a marriage. They'd start their married life with secrets out and lies undone. That's not deadly to a relationship, but it's not a fairy tale start either. Judge Davis approached me during the cocktail hour. "John," she said, "that was quite a show of control." "Control? You could have shut the wedding down. You could have demanded full payment before letting anyone back on the property. You could have shamed them the way they tried to shame you. That's not who I am. No, it's not. And that's why what you did was stronger than revenge. You taught a lesson without becoming the bad guy." She was right. Revenge would have felt good for 5 minutes. Justice feels good forever. Carlos found me later near the reception end. "Boss," he said, "I want you to know I was ready to lock it down. Just say the word, and I would have cleared the property." "I know. Why didn't you?" "Because sometimes the goal isn't to win. Sometimes the goal is to teach." "What did you teach?" "That respect works both ways. That family loyalty counts. That you can't build a life on lies without paying the price." The money results were immediate and clear. Alex's trust fund took an $87,500 hit for the venue fee. The Harrison family had to sell some assets to cover the rest of the wedding costs. Mrs. Harrison's bounced check became public record, which didn't help their name in Connecticut banking circles, but cash was the least of it. 3 other parents approached me during the reception, parents whose kids had also graduated from Columbia, who'd also made sacrifices to pay for their children's schooling. "I saw what happened earlier," said Robert Johnson, whose daughter was a doctor in Boston. "My kid did something like it 2 years ago. Told her new boyfriend's family that I was a family friend instead of her father. Said it was easier than explaining her dad was a plumber. What did you do?" "Nothing. I let it go. Told myself it didn't matter. But watching you today, maybe I should have spoken up." That talk happened 3 more times during the reception. Parents who'd been erased, reduced, or rewritten to fit their kids' new social group's parents who'd sacrificed and been repaid with shame. The story hit because it was common. How many people have felt dismissed because of their accent, their clothes, their job? How many parents have watched their kids climb social ladders by stepping on the people who built those ladders? By Sunday morning, the story had hit local news Connecticut builder school's elite wedding guests on dignity and respect, and the coverage was surprisingly positive, focusing on family loyalty and earned versus inherited wealth. Smith and Partners Construction got more business leads in 3 days than we usually get in 3 months. Apparently, a lot of people wanted to hire the contractor who'd stood up to Connecticut's elite. Alex called me on Tuesday. "Dad," he said, "I need to ask you something." "What's that? Are you going to forgive me?" "I already did. I mean, really forgive me, not just say the words I thought about that for a while, Alex. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing not to let what happened define our bond going forward. So, what does that mean for us? It means we start over with truth this time, with respect for who we both are, not who we think the other should be. And if I mess up again, then you mess up again. But you don't get to erase me. You don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to choose shame over family." He was quiet for a long time. "Dad, I want you to know something. Standing there at the wedding, watching you handle all of that with such grace, I was proud of you. For the first time in months, I remembered why I used to be proud to be your son. You should always be proud of who you are, son, all of who you are, including your roots. Even if your roots are a job site, especially if your roots are a job site. That's where real things get built, not just structures, character, values, the base that everything else stands on. The wedding was just the start. The real work, rebuilding our bond, setting new lines, learning to respect each other as adults. That would take time, but we had time, and for the first time in 8 months, we both wanted to use it. 3 months later, Alex invited me to Sunday dinner at his Manhattan apartment. It was the first time I'd been there since before his engagement. The place looked different somehow, less like a showroom, and more like a home. Family photos were back on the shelf, including one of his mother and me from our wedding day 29 years ago. "Dad," he said as we sat to eat, "I want to tell you about some changes I've made." "What kind of changes?" "Work changes, life changes, priority changes." He'd left his bank job. The stress, the culture, the constant need to project an image that wasn't him, it had become too much after the wedding. "What are you doing now?" "I'm working for a non-profit, housing projects for low-income families, using my finance skills to help people who need it instead of helping rich folks get richer." I smiled. "Your mother would be proud." "You think so?" "I know." "So, she always said you had a good heart. She was just waiting for you to remember how to use it." As Alex had also started mentoring at a Columbia program for first-generation students, kids from families like ours whose parents worked with their hands and spoke with accents and didn't always know how to guide the world their kids were entering. "I tell them about you," he said, "about what you gave, about how I lost my way for a while, but found it again. And what do you tell them to do when they feel ashamed of their roots?" "I tell them that your roots aren't something to beat. They're something to honor. They're your base, and you can't build anything lasting without a solid base." We talked about his marriage. Emily had struggled with the wedding day revelations, but not how I'd expected. His struggle wasn't with learning his husband came from a working family. His struggle was with learning his husband could tell lies that deep and that long. "We're in therapy," Alex said, "working through trust issues. It's hard, But it's good. We're learning to be honest about everything, even the tough stuff. That's what marriage is, I said, choosing to keep showing up even when it's hard. He asked about the firm. Smith and Partners had grown much since the wedding, not just from the publicity, but because the story reminded people there's value in contractors who put integrity over margins. Carlos had been made full partner. We'd hired 12 new staff and taken on 3 big projects, including a hospital ad in Hartford. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course, that day at the wedding when you had me trapped and could have ruined everything. Why didn't you? I thought about that question. I'd been thinking about it for 3 months because ruining you wouldn't have fixed anything. It would have felt good for a few minutes, but then what? You'd still be my son. I'd still love you, and we'd still have to figure out how to move forward. So, what was the point? The point was to remind you and everyone watching that respect isn't something you can buy or inherit. It's something you earn through your choices. And honor isn't something you can demand. It's something you give and receive. He nodded, understanding. I want you to know, he said, that I tell everyone about you now, at work, at events. Everywhere I tell them about the builder who built a business empire, the immigrant who put his son through Columbia, the man who taught me your worth isn't measured by your account. And what do they say? They say they wish they had a father like mine. We ended dinner as the sun set over Manhattan. Before I left, Alex walked me to the door. Dad, I love you, and I'm proud to be your son. I love you too, son. Always have, always will. Sometimes the best comeback isn't comeback at all. Sometimes it's just refusing to let other people's shame become your own. If you liked this story, please tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to follow for more tales about standing up for yourself and never forgetting where you